conversation. That was quite amazing. And remember, I had told you earlier on that we're getting to the month of August, and the month of August is the month where we mark the month of drug overdose awareness, and we want to get into the month already understanding what is this all about. And we are joined by a recovery expert here in the studio. I'm so excited to be hosting her today because we get to discuss the other side of overdose. What does it look like? So please join me in welcoming our guest today, Nkatha. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for giving us your time, Madam Expert in Recovery. I think that's quite an interesting title that you have. How did you get into this? Let's begin from there.
Okay, thank you so much for hosting. You're so vibrant and good to meet you in person. I'm a recovery coach by training, and when you talk about recovery, it is that I did have a substance use disorder, and I did have challenges with alcohol at one point in my life. I had no control, and I've been sober for about 9 years, 7 months. And so we call it a journey of recovery. So it's not just sobriety, but you regain your health, you regain your wellness in all areas, and you work towards a fulfilling life. So a recovery coach helps people who have a substance use disorder, and you journey with them. Remember, I'm not a medical professional. Mm-hmm. No, I have a lived experience, and so we tend to relate with people who have journeyed or have worn those shoes, and so we walk the journey with them. We assure them that there is hope. If I've abstained for long term, then there is a hope for them too. The phrase was called addiction. That's what many people know, but yes, we like to call it either a behavioral disorder or a substance disorder, and particularly what substance. And in my case, it was alcohol. And so you find that when you have that condition, which is a brain disease, you go through so much. And there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of stigma. So a recovery coach just comes to tell you, you know what, yes, I understand what you're feeling. I'm not in your shoes, you know, but I can almost relate because I was there at one point. And you urge them, you know, seek medical help, get to sit with a counselor, you know, look at the different pathways of recovery, because there's this treatment. You can check into a treatment center for, say, 3 months. Some programs run to a year, others 6 months. So our role is to encourage them and direct them to pathways of recovery. And when they are complete with their time in there, we call it continuum of care, then we can be able to help them reintegrate. We can be able to walk the journey with also their loved ones, because when you have a substance use disorder, mm-hmm, as you are experiencing it, the people around you also experience it, because they're trying to help you, or they suffer too. They may not be using.
They're either supporting you, or they're helping you cope, or they're helping you in your new circumstance away from the drugs. You've talked about 9 years and 7 months. What are your perspective on recovery? A destination, or is it a process? And how has it been for you personally?
It has been a daily choice, you know.
I like that a daily choice.
That you will cope healthier, because before the coping was through a substance. So it is a journey. it is a journey.
It's definitely a journey. Yeah. And we just want to encourage all our viewers, please interact with us on our WhatsApp number, on our social medias, TV47KE, as we unpack this conversation on the other side of overdose. I think this is a very big problem. I think some time back, was it 2 weeks ago, we had a representative from Nkatha telling us that 2.3 million Kenyans are addicts of alcohol, and that's a serious problem. As we get into the month of drug overdose awareness, please let's engage more and be part of this conversation. And we're very glad that you are here with us, Nkatha, so we can unpack this. Why is the period right after someone stops using often the most dangerous, that almost leads to that overdose? How does that happen?
I believe you're saying once someone has stopped using?
Yes, once someone has stopped using.
Yeah, it's because it was a way of life. You know, like I said earlier, if you're using substances and now you become dependent on them, your brain has been rewired and the reward system corrupted. So if you are used to getting high on a substance and now you have abstained, now you're looking for something else other than that harmful substance that you are using so that you can live a better, healthier life. So it is usually the riskiest, sensitive, because of habit. Mm-hmm. You know, you've been using for a long time. Again, we need to note that addiction or these substance use disorders are progressive. You don't wake up and become dependent on this substance. It is first through the exposure, then regular use, then it becomes risky use. And by the way, it's progressive such that by the time someone is telling you, hey, you're drinking too much, you're in denial, because for you, you'd rather be high despite the risks. And those are one of the symptoms or signs that you have a substance use disorder. And then when you talk about overdose, then overdose is more of when you take a substance in excess and the body cannot handle it.
Oh, yes.
And so there are cases that are fatal. Yeah. And there's, you know, unconsciousness. And you'll find when it's drug related, either people are mixing drugs. Some people will want to chase, you know, those are terminologies. You mix alcohol with an opioid. And I want to take you back to the World Drug Report that was released in June of this year, because that's also the month that they mark the International Day against drug trafficking, drug abuse and illicit trafficking. And in that report, it says 313 million people in the world used drugs, and 63 million was opioids. And every day there's this new emerging drug, synthetic, and they're more harmful. So the cases of overdose have increased. And so it's no longer a medical concern, it's become a global public health concern. And like you've quoted Nkatha, you've mentioned you hosted someone from Nkatha. The statistics are saying 1 out of 11 people between the age of 15 to 65 are using a substance. In Kenya, alcohol is the leading, and the illicit one is cannabis. In the World Report, the leading is weed, you know, cannabis.
Yes.
So then it means the cases of overdose are getting higher, and then there is need then for more awareness. And that's why we are saying prevention is possible by having these conversations through the media, in different settings, and then also letting people know there is treatment, and then being able to address the drug problem, because it can lead to, not everyone gets to end up having a substance use disorder.
And it's interesting you say not everybody gets to have a substance disorder. And there are people who actually say, me, I drink and I don't feel anything. I drink so much and I don't get even high, you know. What would you say to such people? Because the body knows, the body is taking it all in. What would you say to such people? Or are there people who are predisposed to getting the overdose, and there are people who are not predisposed to get into that situation until they overdose?
again, I'll throw in the disclaimer, I'm not a medic.
Yes, yes.
or I have studied and I've done courses on addiction prevention, substance use prevention, and also the recovery. But what you've just described, when someone says, I can take a whole bottle and I feel nothing, you're just explaining tolerance. That person actually, that is a sign of dependence, because if you are used to just having one drink and you get a bit tipsy, and then with time you have to take 10 to get high, it's just a sign that your tolerance level has become higher, to mean you have to use more substance to get intoxicated. Then that's a sign you need help. And I think this is to someone who's watching today, and today is Friday, Furahi Day. And I know, and even where we are located, I know that many places that are full, and that's the lifestyle. And many people are also bragging about it. I can take more, and then this. That's a sign that you have a high tolerance, and you need to be careful because within no time, this substance will become your top priority. And anyone who has a high tolerance, if you ask them to just be honest and answer if that drink has cost them, say, their career, their relationships, they'll say yes.
Yeah.
So is it worth it? So if someone is watching today and they can already say that is a concern, they can reach out to somebody so that they can start cutting down the substance, so that it doesn't become, they don't become dependent or progresses to other stages of that substance use disorder, which is chronic and can be critical.
And can be fatal as well, as you mentioned earlier. Yes. What's the connection between isolation and overdose, and how can support disrupt that?
I believe, okay, when you are drinking too much, say, and your peers or even your family is calling you out and saying, you know what, we are concerned about your drinking, etc., etc. Many people, because of shame, will withdraw. So they start isolating. So you find that they used to hang out as a crowd, but because they notice they're drinking more than their peers, and their peers are already pointing it out, they look for other company that is even drinking more than they do. You just need to go to a pub and see many who drink alone, and they'll be friendly with others who are drinking alone, and you'll notice they drink quite a lot. So that isolation, that withdrawal, is because they too realize that their life is completely changed. It's not how it used to be, because they're trying to stop using this substance, whichever it could be, because everyone has their poison. It could be alcohol, it could be a narcotic, it could be whatever it is. They have tried to stop, but they're unable to stop because of the withdrawal. Remember, we've talked about dependence.
Yes.
If you're used to taking sugar or coffee, and then one morning, and you've been taking it daily, and then one morning you say, I won't take my coffee, you won't have a good day, because you feel the headache from afar. Those are withdrawal symptoms, because you're dependent on that substance. So these people, you start isolating, because now you're trying to hide from others that you're using, because everyone is already letting you know they are concerned about you. So isolation is very dangerous, because when you're isolated and you're using these psychoactive substances, to mean they interfere with how you're thinking, and thought process, you could even end up depressed and think all of a sudden no one loves you, and people end up even taking their lives. We've also heard of people isolating now to the point where they're not even going out to hang out. They're drinking in their homes. How many cases have we had, even of prominent people here in Kenya, and other isolated cases that a body was found and they found drinks and they had vomited, or such cases? It's because you have isolated to a point where you don't enjoy other company, because all the joy is derived from the substance of use. So it is dangerous, and if you notice a loved one or a friend is isolating, they used to be vibrant and now they are sulky and sad, or if they've lost so much weight, if they're unkempt, if their hygiene is an issue, and then the money issue. This is someone who didn't have a money issue, but now they're asking for money, or they are borrowing. You know, those drastic change of behavior, then you can be able to stage an intervention. And at times, if you approach someone as if you're attacking them, they will be defensive and you may lose them. So it is important to look for a professional to help you, you know, a counselor, someone trained, or even you can look for a recovery coach who's walked that journey, and they can be able to reach out to them, or a family member who can be able to talk that language and tell them, hey, we're concerned about you, we've seen 1, 2, 3, and we feel like you need help. Or you ask them, are you okay? And start that conversation, because early detection can save a life.
And it's interesting because that very family that is supposed to give support can be the very family that actually will create that isolation, because they can push you away with what they're, you know, checking out on someone could be offensive to this person, and they can be defensive as well. So choosing the right words or choosing the right channels, which, as you say, even seeking professional help could be the way to go. Is there a point in your experience that you have seen the recovery coach coaching work, and you're pleasantly surprised by the changes someone has made because of the intervention that they have taken through the coaching?
Oh, wow, they are numerous. They're numerous. I want to just mention something. You've talked about the family. You see, the family is the one that's used to this person who has the substance use disorder.
Yes.
Obviously, if everything has changed, the priorities of this person who's using, now the drug is the one that is the #1 priority. If this person has a family, for instance, then it means, and children, and they go to school, it means school fees is no longer a priority. The priority is the drink. If he's married, a relationship with the wife or intimacy is not the priority. The priority is the drink. So you find the family around also get affected, and they're human. They will be resentful.
Yes.
So like you've said, it is true. The same family, which ideally should be accommodative, many end up very frustrated, and they will talk like they have done everything, because they're assuming it is a moral issue, yet it is a disease. So to answer you about the recovery coaching, there's many people in recovery in support groups. There are those in millions who are in anonymous groups, and they meet often, and people have maintained long-term sobriety. And then there's those other people who have, say, community-based recovery groups, or you just have a relationship like a mentor-mentee, and you're walking a journey with someone who has decided they no longer want to use a substance because it has, been a challenge in their life.
Yes.
And the stories are numerous. You just need also to go into social media, or go into the space and just Google recovery and see that there are so many men, more than women, who are speaking out loudly. And then when you see the activities they are doing, there's this young guy called Chris, and he's in recovery long term. And I like for them, they've chosen hiking, so that people in recovery, once in 3 months, they say, you know what, let us go travel together. Yes. And what is uniting us? The fact that you struggled, but now you've chosen sobriety, and now you can do sober activities together. And like I said earlier, recovery is not just about abstaining from the drink. It's actually reflecting into yourself and loving yourself and focusing on building your mind, your relationships, and also admitting that along the way you did offend many, and try and make amends if it will be helpful to you and them. If it's not,
thank you so much, Nkatha Mwenda. Thank you so much for being so generous with your knowledge and so insightful, and also vulnerable to share with us your personal experiences. Time is just not on our side. That was amazing, and we look forward to interacting with you on our socials. I know you've been asking a few questions, and we're going to get back to you with that. But thank you so much for keeping it TV47 Prime, and also for staying on for the conversation conversation with Nkatha Mwenda and Which is Which, of course. And I'll see you next week. I'm Wakio Mzenge. Our sign language interpreter was Rory Nyamai. From all of us here in the studio, we want to wish you a good night.
Oh, good night. Time.
It